Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
I'm vengeance.
I have given a name to my pain.
The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill the Bat of Gotham. I'm Batman.
Hello, Bat family, and welcome to this episode of the Batman on Film podcast. BOF is a sponsor and a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network. Check out all of the shows over at batmanpodcastnetwork.com and follow us on Twitter at BatPodNetwork. I'm Garret Grev. You can follow me on Twitter at Garret Wado and email me topics, suggestion, feedbacks, maybe a nice winter squash recipe that you think I could enjoy. You can do that at garret.grev@batmanonfilm.com. As always, thank you for listening. Now, listeners, if you have been listening to the podcast for a while, you likely know that I spent many a year as an avid reader of the website and a listener of the podcast, long before I ever joined Team BOF, right? And there have been several iterations of the Batman on Film podcast over the years. Different names, different faces, kind of different formats, different audio quality, if I have to be honest about it. Over the time, we've really evolved over time in the podcast space as it's bloomed. Things are a little bit easier to listen to across the board, not just here at BOF. But I have to say, my guest today was a foundational element of my personal favorite iteration of the BOF podcast. I remember his first appearance on the show, and I remember asking myself, who is this random SoCal bro that they've added into the mix? And it turned out that pairing a skate punk dad with a hard-nosed Texas football coach and a couple other unique personalities was a great idea for that run, and I was hooked. In fact, this gentleman hosted my very first appearance on the BOF podcast, which was a mountaintop emotional moment for me, right? It was very cool to get included in this thing I had been a fan of for so long, and now I get the chance to do this, not as often as I should, but we're doing it today. So after a couple years hiatus, this fella rejoined Team BOF in 2022, but I have yet, until today, had the opportunity to record with him. So please join me in welcoming back for episode 204 of the Batman on Film podcast, the man who likes all kinds of beers, black, white, Puerto Rican, Chinese beers, the internet's top Tom King apologist, the guy who looks like a modern version of how 90s/2000s Tooth and Nail records sounded, the person who has no time for trash juice, the guy who loves nothing more than Batman in space and he wants everything to be connected, and the man who owes Peter Vera $7. Welcome back to the show, BOF contributor Justin Kowalski.
Oh my gosh. Okay, there's so many things. The tooth and nail one got me, dude. I was trying to be silent.
I heard a chuckle.
Oh man, I was trying. Thank you, Garret. I was gonna say, what started sticking in my head was I was like, wow, it's like the son has become the father. And then to tie it to Batman, I was like, that Smashing Pumpkins song, the end is the beginning.
This is the end, right?
And then the
Batman and Robin soundtrack.
Then the other one's the beginning is the end is the beginning. So there we go.
That's right. Here we are. Full circle.
Wow. Episode 204.
Yeah.
Wow.
The fall was not a real productive time for me.
Yeah. I feel like
on the podcast, we've been stuck at like 200 for a little while.
Yeah.
Haas hosted an episode looking at the latest video game that I haven't bought because I don't have a next gen console, or I guess now it's just current gen. Yeah. Gotham Knights. And also, from what I've heard, that's not the game that was going to make me do the console upgrade quite yet. Yeah. So we'll see. Suicide Squad might be that one for me. But yeah, 204. So my New Year's Happy New Year, by the way. We haven't seen each other in person. We're not in person, but I haven't really seen your face in live action. since the dawn of the new year. One of my resolutions for you and, dear listeners, is to be a little bit more on time with recording the podcast. Now, no one's left hungry, right? Like there's a ton of shows on this feed now. You got Batman Animation, you got Chapter by Chapter, which you've been doing a lot with 89. You've got the Social Hour. So there's stuff that keeps you busy. I'm probably forgetting at least one other one. Satellite Show. I don't know if that's been current lately, but I may have something cooking on that. So there's plenty of Bat content, but it's nice to have you join for the first episode of the new year for the flagship, so to speak, title.
I'm excited. I just like talking about Batman stuff. So there's not a lot of, like non-specific, like specific, but non-specific, like, like just kind of shooting the moon,
Yeah. What's going on in the world? What's happening? What's new? It's, if you want specifics, you can go listen to our pal, Ryan Lauer's podcast where you're looking at a specific title, and that's fun to really take a deep dive. But sometimes you just want to frolic through those pages. Kermit the Frog gif through the pages. I don't know what he likes to do, but Rainbow Connection.
Frolic.
But yeah, we're sort of like having a little general bat chat today. What's new in the space, right? General bat chat.
We've got general bat chat.
We've got little tidbits, right? Little bits of things that are going on in the space. Since it's Batman on film, we're going to keep this episode largely focused, 1, to Batman, and 2, film. Yeah. And there's been, imagine that, right? And there's been rumblings in that space, some articles up on the BOF website.
Exclusive news, Garrett.
There's some exclusives over in Collider that we'll get to.
Wow.
No offense to the Collider family over there. I think they've typically been pretty decent people, but it's amazing. Yeah. It's January and news is slow. So that old exclusive label is getting slapped around a tad bit liberally in my assessment. We can get into that. And then, I can't help myself, right? Like, and plus it makes sense. Batman's best friend, not Robin, that's his ward, but his best friend's Superman, right? And there's a little bit of Superman we could touch on because if Batman's my 1A, Superman's long been my 1B. So, but that's the topics, Justin.
There we go. I'm excited.
Since I started hosting this show.
Yes.
I like to play games.
Oh my gosh. All right. I knew it.
And you, sir, have yet to play this game.
I play along all the time and I'm like, come on, Pete. And I'm like, yelling at Pete.
Oh yeah. This is going to be, I literally thought to myself as I was working on the show doc for this, I'm like, listen, how funny would it be? Because I think, we've mentioned this in the past. All the Bat Boys got a group chat. A lot of names you'd be familiar with are yucking it up with one another over the phones. And I thought, how fun would the group chat be if Lauer, who knows a lot about Batman, and Peter, who knows, comic knowledge runs deep. Those guys are terrible at this game. What if, Justin, your first at bat, you just crack this thing right over?
Oh man, let's do it.
Right, let's go yard. Okay, so with the trivia game that has swept is going around the nation and the globe yet again this year. It's What Are You?
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me. What are you?
All right, okay. It's been a little bit since we played the game, so I'll refresh for Justin, refresh for the listeners. Of course, listeners, you're playing along at home.
I'm so excited, Garrett. I didn't know that this was going to happen.
Oh, yeah. I was excited for it, too. And I'm the one who wrote it up.
All right,
so
let's do
this, of course, is the Batman-focused trivia game where listeners, you play along at home or in your car or in the office, at the gym, wherever you may be, right? And there's a subject. You are looking to guess what that subject is. What is the secret identity of the conversation at hand? And to help you get there, I'm giving out 3 standard level difficulty clues. This is your normal type of clue in a game you'd play, any sort of trivia game, Jeopardy, what have you. You don't have to answer in the form of a question, of course, but that kind of just general difficulty. Right. Now, we all like to be winners. We just we did a little house cleaning at our place recently, Justin, in the new year. Kind of let's get rid of some old stuff we don't need. And we got rid of some of the kids' like participation trophies from early elementary school sports. Oh, yeah. They like to get those trophies, and we like the listeners to feel like winners. And I mentioned it sometimes for Lauer and Peter, they need to go all the way to that 4th clue. Wow. And that should be a giveaway clue, right? That should be the one where everybody goes, ding, 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 I got it. Of course, we were playing on the Bat honor system here down in the Batcave. And that means I have a visual connection to Justin here, but you listeners,
my hands are free.
Yep. He's got nothing.
Phone,
he hasn't seen. There's no Googling. There's no phoning, picking up the red phone and calling into the Batcave from Commissioner Gorder's office, none of that. But when Justin believes he has the answer after the clue that I gave him that he thinks now has unlocked his memory and his knowledge to know the answer, he will raise his hand. Justin, of course, is not going to change his answer from that point on because, dear listeners, we want to continue to give those clues for everyone else playing along at home. Okay. Justin, today's subject is a villain. That's your first freebie.
Okay. And so when I know it, I just raise my hand.
You raise your hand, we mark that, and then you are locked in. You don't change it. We keep going with clues.
All right.
Are you ready, sir?
I was born ready.
All right. Clue number 1. This villain first appeared in Batman number 133 in August of 1960 and was created by writer Bill Finger and artist Dick Sprang. What are you? Eyes are darting around. He seems to be searching memory. He's got his hand up. My
hand is up.
All right. And you're locking in. This is honest.
I'm locking in. All right,
here we go. Listeners, Peter and Ryan, the secret identity of this character was named after a popular comic strip character as an inside joke referencing his supervillain motif. What are you? We'll go right to 3 since it's just the listeners left. This character's profile and popularity has surged in recent years thanks to appearances in Batman's title post-DC Rebirth and in a popular animated program. What are you? And clue number 4, the giveaway. This character could have really helped Ben Franklin in his quote-unquote discovery of electricity. What are you? Tell me, Justin Kowalski, who is the villain we're talking about today?
Well, I think I'm wrong.
You should have waited. You got too eager, sir.
I got way too eager. Oh my gosh.
Let me run it down for the listeners and for you. And you know what? Before I give the answer, what did you think? And then let's give you a second go at it after I run through the answers. It won't be officially beating Ryan and Peter. That should be sailed if you're wrong.
I wanted to crush them.
You wanted the glory.
I wanted to crush them.
What did you think right away?
Right away, when you said Dick Sprang, I was like, oh shoot, it's freaking I thought Two-Face, but then I was like then I started thinking that number's wrong. So yeah, but then when you started talking about like popularity, I was like, oh shoot, I know who it is now. And I'm like, suck.
All right, so we'll run it down.
I know who it is.
1960, Finger and Sprang.
Yeah.
Actual secret identity named after a comic strip character, arguably the most famous, created by a Minnesotan, by the way.
That was
referencing the supervillain motif. Yeah. Profile and popularity surged because he's showed up in the title recently and he's on a popular animated show, and he could have helped Ben Franklin discover electricity. Who is it actually, Justin?
It's Kite Man.
It is Kite
Charlie
Man.
Brown.
That was Kite Man.
That was it. I was like, son of a gun. And I'm like,
Charles Brown, Chuck Brown.
Yeah. I had to be honest, Garrett.
Yeah. Hey,
Scout's on it, bro. Code. Yeah. Like
what happens?
I learned.
Batman brings Robin down to the cave, puts the hand, swears the oath. We've all seen the image. It's been drawn by multiple people. That's what we do here in the Batcave. But you know what? You would have gotten it. You did get it. But
I got it, but I didn't get it off I wanted to be the first. I wanted to ride off the first and be like,
yeah.
And I don't know, for whatever reason, I feel like when you say Dick Sprang, I'm like, is he the first guy to draw Two-Face? Maybe I'm wrong. Ask Peter. Take my Batman card, man. Take it away.
No one's really thrown out the threat of taking away someone's Bat card recently.
Gone,
in 2017, years gone by. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that has been What Are You? Okay. And with that, let's get into the news.
3, 2, 1.
Cue music. Cue Becky.
Good evening.
You know, I shouldn't, it's like, it should be embarrassing to be as pleased with some of your own ideas and little things you put together as I tend to be every time I hear Cue Becky. And I'm like, I'm so glad I thought to use that little soundbite for the news. Like, anyone could have thought of that, right? If you're in this space, that might jump out as a nice little soundbite for the news. But every time I hear it play, I'm like, I think that's nice. So anyway, all right. So let's talk about some headlines that are going around Gotham these days. And we might as well, start with, last year, we're nearing a year since the release of Matt Reeves' The Batman into the cinema. And obviously very successful film, has spawned a number of other projects, whether it's in the comic books or a spin-off, which we'll talk about just a little bit with this, or a sequel, very clearly, sort of an inspired by quasi prequel, which was one of my favorite comics of 2022 and Batman the Imposter. But the Batman and the things around it are a big ticket. It's hot stuff for WB. There has been, Justin, I don't know if you've seen this on the interwebs, a number of people, I would even maybe say more than speculating, just like calling their shot, that the new DCU under James Gunn would sort of retroactively, in kind of the same way the DCEU retroactively made Man of Steel, the first movie in that universe, would do the same thing to the Batman. It was at any point in time, did that seem like a plausible thing to happen for you?
Not at all.
Right?
No, never. So I mean, I think James Gunn, like, if his first move out the gate was like, first off, the Batman's basically Action Comics #1 here, that just sets up, it doesn't set a good tone for a cohesive and connected universe. Like the Batman's got a tone, and,
right?
It's a tone that, and this isn't an insult, it doesn't play well with others. Like Superman 100%. Is not going to show up in that film. It would be really weird. It would throw it off. So,
and Peter said this on, I think it was a recent social hour with Bill, that he's always kind of, as he watches Peter M. Vera, for those of you who might be joining that don't always know, the shorthand co-host of Straight Outta Gotham and about a billion other podcasts. But he said in his mind that he thought that was a possibility because his life, as he's watched every Batman movie, he has just sort of taken it for granted that there was a Superman out there someplace. And I think I could see that for the Burton Schumacher movies, and then maybe nothing after that besides, the Snyderverse, whatever the hell we want to call that stuff. DCEU. Like, I think it made sense because there's references to this is why Superman works alone, and they're halfway to Gotham now, and blah, 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 blah. But I certainly would have a hard time picturing that for the Batman. The thing for me that just never made sense is, Warner Brothers went out and hired James Gunn, who is, whether you always like his style, I like almost all the stuff of his I've seen, and I haven't sought out some of the more, horror stuff because I'm a little baby. I've really liked all of James Gunn's stuff, but he's got a style and he's got a vision. I always thought, just from practically speaking, you don't hire that guy that has a vision and an approach and kind of a style, and then also have the first movie or the character from a different movie with a very different director, with a very different style, with a very different vision, have to be what would essentially be the cornerstone of his new universe. Like that. Yeah. Like you're an artistic guy. Would that be something that would be enticing to you? Like, hey, come do this project, but you have to start with this other person's work first.
Yeah. Let me put my beret on real quick. Hold on. Well. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like, my whole philosophy on all the interconnected stuff is I prefer it. I like it. I think the DC universe is richer when it's connected. Because I think that the way that characters kind of interconnect, it sometimes brings out the best of them. I kind of like seeing, like, Grant Morrison Justice League. I like seeing, like, Batman be the guy who handles everything. Like, oh shoot, like Batman, he's the tactician, like
he's a fixer.
He thinks and stuff. But that being said, like, what Reeves created, he did not create the DCU Batman. He created a Batman who exists in his world. It's more grounded, I would say, than what Nolan did. Yeah. Because I can actually see, like, a Superman being a part of the Nolan stuff if they wanted to. I think it would be an easier jump as from what Reeves did, but it's not the case. Yeah, it can be limiting, man. Like, can you imagine, like, Matt Reeves through all the negotiations and I mean, it was a long process for him to make this movie. And then like, hey, James Gunn's coming in, he's in charge. You have to be a part of what we're doing, or he's commandeering your vehicle to kickstart what he's doing. And it's like, oh, so it doesn't work for both. For James Gunn, it's like, man, I have to really force a DCU to be part of this world, which wouldn't work because what didn't work with Snyder stuff, it was so dark and deconstructive. Like there's nothing in like the Batman, it ends hopeful. Like Batman's like, oh, I have to inspire people, right? Like that's great. That's where you want to be. But it doesn't set a good tone for the rest of the DCU. I just don't think it opens itself up to like aliens from other planets.
I agree with you entirely. And I think on a number of fronts, I'm a connected universe guy, DC as well. I also tend to like solo Batman stories if they're told the right way and it makes sense. Like, hey, Batman's got this thing covered. Because let's remember, these are all writers and artists' choice to tell a story. Like you don't always, I think the easy out people get to is like, and no offense to any of our colleagues that maybe have said this from time to time, but I think it's an easy out to say, well, if you do that, then you always have to wonder, well, where's Superman in this one? Why isn't Superman helping? Or how come Green Lantern didn't come in to save the day? Well, it's a writer's choice to tell a story that Batman couldn't handle on its own. That would feel like it needed an outside element. You just don't have to do that.
Yeah. So how come Garrett didn't come over and help me fix my fence?
Yeah, right.
Garrett's got stuff to do, man.
I know. Garrett flies to California sometimes. Get him down here. So you don't have to tell that story, but I do very much like, I enjoy the Batman very, very much. It was my favorite movie of last year. Big shocker for those listening, I'm sure. So I love that kind of continuing on. And, and the good thing here is we don't have to end with our speculation. Bill's got an article up over on the website, pulling some tidbits that also came from an article that was up on Collider, essentially revealing that the co-heads of DC Studios, James Gunn and Peter Safran, are going to be soon meeting with Matt Reeves, in particular to discuss the Batman. Not just the Batman, but to discuss Batman. Where Reeves has his Batman franchise going and what Gunn and Safran want to do with Batman in the DCU. In the whole purpose of this from what's laid out in this article is to make sure that no one steps on each other's toes. So these are both very important pieces of intellectual property, right? It's one IP, but it's being handled as sort of two separate vehicles, both in the connected universe and in the solo. People are calling this the BatVerse, man, and I'm just kind of over adding verse to everything. But for the sake of this conversation, DCU and the BatVerse or whatever the heck, please, I hope that doesn't catch on. What are your thoughts on that? Was that a reassuring piece of information, or was it sort of like of course?
Yeah, I mean, it was more of course, and they kind of already said that, like, hey, we've met, man, love what he's doing. What it feels like in the time when Nolan was making The Dark Knight and they were going to do Justice League Mortal, there was like, whoa, you guys are going to use Talia and Ra's al Ghul in that thing? Hold up, I've got a plan. And so that's really what it is. It's for me, it's like maybe Reeves has a whole thing like, hey, we're really going to push into mob and gangsters, and here's the characters I really have a heart to kind of platform in my story. That's what I want to do. And so James Gunn could go, oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do a lot of like, wild, like,
Clayface, Man-Bat.
Maybe Clayface. We really want to do the Bat family. What is your thought? I think it's that type of stuff. Like, let's not, like, obviously we're both going to use Batman. What Batman are we going to use? DCU Batman, super integrated, fully connected, like a little more comic book.
DCAU style Batman. Yeah,
and what's the story you're going to tell? Okay, so you're going to be real gritty. You're going to, get into like the kind of the murkiness of like gangs and Arkham villainy and whatever.
Gotham City corruption officials and whatever.
And so like I think that makes sense. It's a no duh, and it's kind of like, okay, just kind of continuing to confirm what they've already kind of said. And it's kind of like non-news. It's kind of
I think it's reassuring. And I hate to be a jerk, so maybe I shouldn't say it. I will say it.
Say it.
I'm going to say it. I think there's a bunch of people that aren't very knowledgeable about the ways studios are going to think through these things, and are maybe, and this is I'm not gatekeeping here. If you're a fan of just Batman from the movies, that's fine. That's more than fine. You're a Batman fan. Just because you haven't read through 40 long boxes of Detective and Batman, reaching all the way back in time. You like the movies. You're a Batman fan. That's fine. You're not as knowledgeable in the source material, but I think you should admit that, but whatever.
You don't know when Kite Man showed up, bro.
Yeah, you did sprang. But you might not be as familiar with all the different iterations of Batman and the variations to the character to understand how you can have a connected universe Batman that pulls from something that's shown up someplace else, whether it's the animated series or different runs in comics, while still leaving, Matt Reeves' Batman take kind of in its spot.
Yeah. And
have that be perfectly valid, right? That's not a dumbed down Batman. That's not a kid's Batman. I don't want some kid's cartoon Batman in the DCU, man. Well, I hate to tell you, just don't know Batman very well, because that's straight up Batman. Yeah. So it's kind of been interesting to have people have this thought of like, this is a likely thing that could happen, when if you're really paying attention, it shouldn't have been a surprise. I do think it's reassuring that these, creators and are working well together and having these conversations, because healthy work environments and clear and open communication is important. So that's good.
Yeah. James Gunn's been very clear on his communication lately.
Oh my gosh, we'll get into that. He's very direct. He's very direct. Another one, so we can transition to, well, you know what, before we go there, let's also say a little bit of non-news on this front. We might as well get into this now. I doubled back on myself.
Do you have an exclusive?
An exclusive. I have exclusive news that we can drop today here on the Batman on Film podcast. We can exclusively reveal that Matt Reeves, who had previously been announced to be hired and working for and developing a sequel to the Batman, is in fact working on the sequel to the Batman. Oh boy.
Wait, hold on, Garrett. This just in. This was confirmed at CinemaCon back in April of 2022.
Stop the press.
Wait, hold on. Matt Reeves said that him and Robert Pattinson are coming back for the Batman sequel, and he is going to be writing it. Yes, he did confirm he'll be writing it back in April at CinemaCon when Warner Brothers presented. So
I'm very confused. Justin, is this not January of 2023?
Well, here's the thing. The way sometimes
are you saying my exclusive is not that exclusive?
I'm saying that you remember back in the day when they'd send a wire.
Yeah, and then somebody on the other side was like talking in a mid-Atlantic old-timey movie voice. Like, hit stop, see? And you're like,
hey, what is this? Oh, there's a telegram here. The real seem very much important to us. It's like 1923. I'm watching 1923, and they're like sending. They want to send a letter instead of a telegram. And they're like, no, it needs to be a letter. He won't read the telegram, or someone else will read it. Anyways,
right.
This is what's going on here.
It's wild.
Their sources are just handwriting this news. They missed this. They missed the big drop.
There was
a month after the movie came out.
There was a pigeon that they connected the letter to, this tiny little pigeon foot. Yep. And they said, "Fly, pigeon, fly." And this pigeon, he's been picking up rice off the streets. He's been hanging outside churches for weddings to enjoy a buffet.
It's bad. It's actually bad.
Yeah, they could blow up. It expands in their tummies. Yeah, it's not a good thing. This pigeon lost a lot of good friends along the way. He's been in mourning, Justin. It's very hard to work when you're depressed. Yes. And he finally made his way to Collider. Sorry, Collider, we called you. And now that's an exclusive.
Wow. Matt Reeves is going to be writing the Batman. And
Bill, have your girl take down a note.
Oh, wow. And Thomason, what's his name? I saw that was confirmed in like August that he was going to be like for sure helping the. So anyways, I mean,
because he worked on the story for the Batman, but didn't have enough quantity of content make to the final script to actually get credited. But he was in there. Yeah. So like, I don't know, surprise.
Wow. Great news.
Big exclusives.
Keep at it, Matt Reeves.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna tweet at him. We're actually, if he follows me, I don't know why, but we're gonna talk.
That's incredible. You've got a couple big fish.
I don't know why. That's a weird one to me. It's his intern.
Yeah. He's like this Kowalski guy. What's up with him?
I wasn't on board. Y'all know. I was like not on board. I wasn't all won over. Everyone's like trust Reeves. I'm like I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, I like that 8 movie, but are you sure? I get it. I get it. I was on board more than you were.
I like Cloverfield. Cloverfield is like
that's a good movie.
Yeah, like,
that is a good movie.
And Felicity. No, I'm just kidding.
Felicity. The Pallbearer. That's when I knew. When I saw what he could do with David Schwimmer, I knew this was the man for the job. He is the man. He's proven himself to this point. All right, proving himself in another project that he got his fingerprints all over, of course, is the upcoming The Penguin series, which stars Colin Farrell. And it was revealed that this HBO miniseries is really essential in setting up the Batman sequel. Now, if you've listened to the podcast, we've kind of speculated about this.
Yeah.
Initially, I think we, sort of went down sometime last year. We had a show we were talking about, what could come post the Batman, and we knew the Penguin series was in the mix. Could this be a prequel series? Leading up to it. I think that might have been we might have had, I should look up what episode that is. I think that might have been.
It's 203.
Oh, it's fair. I earned it. I earned it. It was a light year for old Garrett. But I think it might have been even before the movie came out. And then right after, we sort of, a lot of us in having conversation pivoted to, it's probably the rise of Penguin into this vacuum of power after the Riddler's attack and the arrest and the exposure of the corruption and what have you. And it sounds like that is really, truly where we're going here. And of course, there's been some casting announcements and sort of the cast of characters who are going to be involved in this thing.
Yeah.
What's it tell you, Justin, that specifically this isn't just a show taking place in the universe of the Batman, but is essentially going to serve as let's call it an in-between quill in television format between the two movies? Does that hit you in any particular way?
Yeah, well, I think you have to think about it. The subject is the Penguin. So we're going to tell Penguin's story. It leaves us on a nice little cliffhanger, right? At the end of the Batman, and I think I talked about that. I was actually on, I think, that last episode of Chapter by Chapter, where it's kind of like him looking out over the city. It's like, this is Penguin's time to come up, his opportunity.
It's my moment.
Cool. Yeah. But also I do feel like it would be kind of cool if they touch upon some of his origins, some of his beginnings, just to kind of flesh him out a little bit. And I actually think it would be really important for them to do that, because as general audiences consume media, they just think, he was a bird guy, right?
It's the bird guy.
His parents threw him into the water on Christmas.
Yeah. Like Pee Wee Herman was his dad.
Yeah, Pee Wee Herman was his dad. And so I think that would actually be important for them to do that. But it makes me excited to see kind of like the creation of the new Gotham underworld. Bringing in Falcone's daughter and what's his name? My Batman cards. Alberto, is he? Yeah, he's in it, and then Maroni, and so
Salvatore,
Maroni, Salvatore. So all these characters coming in is going to be cool. It's going to be it's like the dark criminal underworld side of Gotham, kind of continuing, but like the new era of it, because hey, it's been washed clean, really, by the Riddler blowing up the aqueducts. He's kind of cleansed the city, which was his plan. But now, rats always rise,
right?
Rats, and so you have rata alata. So yeah, I'm just interested, curious. That makes sense to me. I wouldn't care if it was a beginnings or what it is. I'm just kind of Colin Farrell wants to be the Penguin. That's cool. Sure.
And he wants to be, he wants to be. His quote on this, he's really excited about it, right? He said, I read the first episode, which is just so tasty and unusual as the character was on the page and what Matt Reeves kind of envisioned when he was thinking of this iteration of the bang up of Oz. So it'll be, I think, 6 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
What pure speculation on my part. But the opportunity is there, right? Should they want to go in this direction, because of the makeup and prosthetics that went into making Colin Farrell unrecognizable as Oz. Yeah. You could jump around in the timeline here. You could do a little bit of the rise, kind of back and forth between, Oz, the up and comer on his way to be the right hand man of Falcone, and then, Oz, the sort of established carving out his territory, making his mark. That could be a really interesting way to handle it. Who knows if they will? But I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, his obsession with maybe snack cakes, like what gets him to be the portly fellow?
I want to know. Anyway. It would be kind of fun. This thing comes out, and the internet keeps wondering, like, every episode, is this the one where he's going to do his French flipper trick? Like, what are they? When's he going to eat the raw fish? Is it? I will say this. 5?
I will say this. I do hope that they bring a little more umbrellas into this thing.
It was a little light on umbrellas.
Yeah, he had one umbrella one time, and I think that it doesn't have to be corn. I'm not asking for like rotating, like, gun umbrellas. But
it rains a lot.
It rains a lot in Gotham. The guy should have an umbrella. That's
the
all
blue
I'm
screen
saying.
technology they set up to film that thing on is perma rain, except for like 2 scenes. Yeah. Plenty of opportunity for umbrellas. And you know what? It's a good thing they shot with that technology, because I think the plan is to continue to use some of that. There's other projects they're working on, including Arkham Asylum, which is still in pre-production, and Gotham City Police Department, whatever those titles shake out to be. We're getting a lot of content in the Batman universe. I really don't want to say
the BatVerse.
Yeah.
The BatVerse. Oh,
Justin, speaking of verses.
Oh man, drop some verses, Garrett.
Yeah. Get our pal Eric in here to rhyme for his intro to the Straight Outta Gotham opening. I'm not going to drop any verses, but we are going to reference another universe verse. Oh, I don't know if you've heard about this. The internet is abuzz, Justin.
Is this the Black Adam verse?
No, that one. It's in the amount of time between the last BOF show I hosted and this one, the Black Adam verse was born and died a quick and terrible death. I actually enjoyed that movie, but R.I.P. Black Adam verse.
Yeah.
No. I'm talking about another universe that seemingly died even longer ago than that. It's the Snyderverse, but Twitter
the bell's
is buzzing. Twitter is buzzing, Justin.
Okay.
What do you think about the possibility? And if you had to wager a guess, do you think Warner Brothers is going to sell the Snyderverse to Netflix so that Zack Snyder can complete his artistic vision on the DC characters he created over at Netflix? Do you think it's going to happen?
Gosh, it's okay. I have 2 answers, and I'm serious. I actually started a Twitter thread today. I'm done talking about Zack Snyder. and
every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Actually, I like Zack Snyder. I like his visual style. I like most of his movies. The issues for me are it's the fandom surrounding it is like it's wild. But okay, so is Warner Brothers going to do that? No, they're not going to do it. The argument is they keep saying, "Oh, Sandman, they sold Sandman." No, they didn't. Warner Brothers is still creating Sandman. Netflix has the rights to distribute it on there. They're making money on it. When it happened, it was
monetized it.
Yeah, it was one of those deals where it's like, how come Warner Brothers isn't doing Sandman at HBOmax? And it was like, they're trying to make money. They can make a lot more money at Netflix. It was kind of one of those first like things of this, and this is before Zaslav, I think. It was they can make a lot more money taking things over there. Okay, fine. So the fans are using that as some type of reason for Snyder to continue his work over there. Forgetting that the guy is setting up a whole zombie and space opera like universes. Like the guy is busy. I don't know if he's busy. Has time. Like they forget that
he's gainfully employed. He's out there making
at
Netflix.
But Snyder also likes every one of those posts and just kind of emboldens him. But I would actually like for Netflix to say, hey, you know what, we struck a deal and they're going to do it, and then they just cancel it, because then it would just be kind of funny. It doesn't make any business sense at all. Like it especially with like, dude, James Gunn's like, dude, I just want to do what I want to do. I want to launch my new universe. Hey, this old thing that, these hardcore fans, God bless them, they love this and they want to see it end. Let's just continue to do it. We already did it. We already threw $80 million at this thing, and it didn't do what they thought. They took a gamble and it didn't do what they thought it was going to do. And it just needs to be done. Even oh gosh, what was her? Ann Sarnoff, was that her name? She said, "We are grateful for what Zach did. He finished his trilogy. It is done."
Yeah. That quick rebranded that as a trilogy. People
it is done.
Quick to forget it's over.
It's done.
But
it's done.
Put a fork in it. And I just also, no logical sense. One, the business negotiations on something like this would take an incredible amount of time to very clearly detail, because Warner Brothers is very protective of these characters' perception across the general audience. It influences not just the way the movies are received, but when something, I've talked about this a bunch, when a live action movie goes out there, it's the most eyeballs that ever get on these characters, if it's a success, right?
Yeah.
And it influences the way that character is understood kind of out in the ether. It changes the populace understanding of what it is. And
like the penguins thing, like they think penguin's a mutant bird.
Right.
Right. And I'm not a knock. I love that movie, but I'm saying like people think that's Penguin. People think Joker killed Batman's parents. That's still a thing. That's still something people will go. They'll ask me like, "Oh, didn't Joker kill his parents?" No.
I'm like, nah. It's like that's like the worst part of that movie, quite honestly. You know,
but movies influence.
The
greater
way they're
audience.
Understood.
Yes.
And if you spend all this time we don't need to rehash all the past and why the reasons it didn't work.
Yeah.
But from all indications, what Gunn wants to do with these characters is sort of, I kind of feel like it's close to what DC did with Rebirth and what they've done with kind of the concept of Rebirth over the years.
Yeah.
Not in the story mechanics of like, here's an event, now the world or universe is reborn, but getting these characters back to sort of their foundational elemental truths that are easily recognizable by the general public, are true to what people expect them to be like, but also have the ability to tell fresh stories, right? They need to be similar enough to what people want and expect from these characters, while also leaving room for artists to tell compelling stories that will surprise and delight the audience. Yeah. And I don't know how you do that while also still saying, and we're going to allow a separate iteration of these characters in its own pretty massive world, really, if what these fans claim could happen, to exist over at a competitor at the same time, drawing attention away from this huge investment we're making with our IP. It won't happen. I don't know what bet I could make. I'll shave my whole body and dive into the
Snyderverse. But the Snyder Cut came out, Garrett.
Yeah, sure did. And where are the leaders of the company that made that choice now? So
they're not there.
They're not there, and they're not gonna. And these new leaders aren't going to keep remaking. Whether you think it was a mistake or not, they're not going to keep remaking those same choices of previous leadership.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. And there's we were talking off air. There's a lot of articles that come out and say this is why it could be a good idea. It's just not. It really isn't. It doesn't seem to be especially, I'll go back. I'm talking so fast. I'm Netflix and I'm looking at like, why would we do this? Like Netflix is canceling series left and right now because they're not
left, right, and center. And actually some pretty good series are getting the axe over there, and they're not doing it to make room for Zack Snyderverse DC
no, they're not.
property.
But like look at like the numbers just on what and people go, well, look how it's streamed over in England. Okay, fine. But like HBOmax, the numbers that Zack Snyder's Justice League, it didn't do what they thought it was going to do. They thought it was going to increase subscribers. And so anyways, so Netflix being like the biggest streamer out there, they're not going to want to like do
if it wasn't good enough for HBOmax, it's not going to be good enough for Netflix. And you know, there's articles, I think some people are losing their minds trying to justify ways it could possibly happen. People who should know better, you know, whatever. You probably, if you're familiar with the site for a long time, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's just, I think it's silliness. And I think it's sad in some ways because there are people that are smart enough and know the industry well enough that are playing into this to get attention and to get clicks and to get paid in some ways. I'm glad I have a day job and I do this as a hobby and I don't have to do that stuff because it's straight up silly.
Yeah.
And that's all I really got to say about that, you know?
Yeah. I want to say something that's funny though, and I told Lauer he should have just tweeted this, but on our thread, he said Matt Reeves should just sell the BatVerse to Paramount Plus.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
That
it was
makes
so
sense.
funny.
That makes total sense. All right, so we covered a whole lot of Bat content. Of course, Superman was over in the Snyderverse, and we know, unfortunately for me, I was sad about this, that Henry Cavill is not going to be continuing on in the role of Superman. Yeah. But guess what? I'm a Superman fan. I am also a fan of Henry Cavill, but I like Superman a whole lot more than I like Henry Cavill, and I would have liked to see Henry Cavill give us an outstanding Superman performance.
Yes.
I never really quite got there for me personally. It's okay if you think he killed it in one of the movies he did. I never thought
he sure got killed.
Oh, too early and not effectively, but whatever.
Yeah. There you go.
But we know they're not done making Superman movies. In fact, you can kind of take it to the bank that Superman is going to be one of the, if not the, one of the very first movies of this new DC universe. And we're probably about 3 years out from that. And when it happens, it won't be Henry wearing the cape. We talked about how James Gunn is very clear and direct with fans. I don't know that I've ever seen a studio head communicate.
It's wild, man.
Across any type of entertainment, communicate the way he does with fans directly.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Unprecedented.
I've got receipts.
Right. So good. Yeah. Calling people out, laying truth bombs left, right, and center. But he let it be known, people, of course, anytime there's a vacancy in a role, you get the fan cast and the amateur Photoshop. And some of it looks pretty good. There's been some people I'm like, what, J-Rock could do that one? That one looks nice. But people are now tweeting this poor guy. People tweet him directly. What do you think of this? What do you think about that? And there was somebody, I don't know, like at Superfilm News tweeted their choice is this Jacob Elordi. I've never heard of him. Looks okay. What do you think about this? And James Gunn replies, my thoughts is that no one has been cast as Superman. He goes on to say that he waits until the script is done and then they go into casting, but the script isn't close to being done and they aren't doing any casting. But he did kind of also lay a tidbit that there will be news in the not distant future. And he ended things with a little merman emojis, which makes me think there might be some news about what's going on with Aquaman. I don't really want to
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to speculate on that. Of course, rumors have been recently that Jason Momoa would be transitioning out of his role of Aquaman and somehow transitioning to the role of Lobo. So I don't know, maybe where there's smoke, there's fire.
Okay, on that one. Where's the whole Lobo thing gets me? Where did that start? That's just people
speculating and then adding, right? And then speculating. Momoa has long said he's a big fan of Lobo. I think Gunn at one point said he likes Lobo or included.
I love Lobo. I think Jason Momoa would be a great Lobo, but I just feel like
whose favorite character is Lobo?
Yeah, I feel like it, man. If you're Aquaman, do you end your role as Aquaman and be like, you know what? I'm gonna be Lobo.
Yeah,
like Lobo's such a side character.
Let's go, you bastitches.
But he's definitely a James Gunn kind of like thing. Like, man, alien in space. No one really knows about it. Like, before you know it, there's gonna be 3 Lobo movies.
Right, in a TV series. I mean, we got
TV series.
We're getting a second season of Peacemaker. Come on.
Yeah. So it makes sense. But sorry, sidetrack. I'm just like, what is that about?
No, it's all in the mix. But no Superman yet.
Yeah, and dude, this guy, by the way, no offense to this actor, he's probably a great actor, like young guy. He just doesn't look like Superman.
No, he doesn't.
He just kind of looks like some guy who works at like the Gap. I'm like, hey man, you want some tan pants?
You want to sign up for our Gap card? You can get 15% off our first purchase.
He just doesn't have, and unfortunately, like, with casting someone like Superman, there is a look.
There's a look.
And it's not like a thing where like they cast Heath Ledger as a Joker. Like that's different because you're going to put makeup on and stuff, but there definitely needs to have some type of stature, and you can always dye hair because Cavill and Reeve both had lighter hair. They dyed their hair out. But this guy doesn't look like Superman to me. Yeah. There's definitely like, okay, that's who we're looking for. Anywho,
did you ever hear about in the I remember the bluetights.net days when Superman Returns was being made, and they had a little featurette on the extent they went through for the hairpiece that Brandon Routh wore in his turn. Like he
wore a hairpiece?
Well, he wore a hairpiece on the front of his head. It wasn't because he had a receding hairline or anything like that, but the look. Singer was obsessed with the look of the spit curl, and it had to be just right. And I think they mentioned what the cost of one of these was. The budget for the spit curl hairpiece had to be huge, and they like prepped it and they sprayed it and they placed it and they did the lace and the whole thing. Yeah. Like so much care was put into the look of that. I'm like, you could have gussied up the old script a little bit with all this spit curl attention time,
Just get some Suavecito, put that on there and be done, man. Whoa.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually really funny.
So no casting yet. Of course, the internet will continue to push forward their favorites and do photo
Here's my thing.
manipulation.
Sorry, Garrett. I'm just laughing. I'm like, in what James Gunn has done now is said he must have some type of like filter on his like tweet deck or
some
something,
sort of
like,
AI.
like ridiculous news and rumors. Like I wouldn't be out here right now if I was like one of these like scooper guys putting random stuff out that's not true, just because James Gunn is going to come at you. And he does it, and he does it graciously, unless someone's being a turd, then he kind of he'll send it back. But
right.
I'm just like, why even say anything that's not even closely remotely true? Because James Gunn is just gonna, I mean, he's gonna shoot some truth bullets at you out of the James Gunn, right?
And it could very well be why, not to go back to the Snyder stuff, but it could be why that corner of fandom hasn't really slowed down, because when it comes to the DCU stuff, Gunn is quick to say, that's not happening, or that's not true, or I would be the source on that, and I will not confirm it.
Yeah.
And and he's not, I don't think he's going to talk trash about another director or anything else, or I don't think the studio, I don't think he personally or the company wants him to get in the mix on that, which kind of leaves a little bit of a vacuum for that corner of fandom to get all riled up and goofy again.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. Here's the opportunity. This guy's debunking all this stuff related to his stuff. We have free license to make up silliness about the thing that used to be around. Who knows?
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. We'll see. Wait and see.
We will. And until then, you know what? We'll get some more podcasts out there. You can go to the website to read all the non-scooper news. Batman on Film's not a scoop site, in case anybody needs
all of them scoops.
All those toxic scoopers. Like, if you want to read,
don't think Bill's scooping is gumbo, bro.
Heck yeah. If you want to read non-toxic stuff and non-scoops, go to Batman on Film. And Justin, they can check you out a few different places. Why don't you let them know where they could get a little more Kowalski in their lives?
You can check me out in all few of these places. Twitter. You just find me on Twitter. Justin M. Kowalski. I'm there. Just floating around the ether.
You can talk to him.
I love G.I. Joes, man. Make the G.I. Joe film. Make the G.I. Joe verse.
He is Justin, I will attest, has been on a G.I. Joe kick lately. You guys know I've been on a He-Man and the Masters of the Universe kick basically my whole life. Maybe, Justin, if G.I. Joe comes back in a big way, the long in development He-Man stuff, we do a crossover.
Man, it's so ripe. G.I. Joe is so ripe for a good franchise, like a live action thing. And they can't do it. I don't know why.
They'll figure it out eventually. All things
I'll figure it out. Xandar will figure it out.
Little tiny, 3.75 inch figure it out.
Dude, these things revolutionized action figures, man. No one, look at that. Star Wars had nothing on these guys, dude.
Yeah, but then He-Man came along, over 5 inches, very bulky, big figure. We should do a satellite show, 80s toys review.
Oh, let's do it today.
Right. No. I'm down. Sometime soon. Right. Until then, listeners, if you want to get more content, head on over to the website, of course, batman-on-film.com. If you want to keep this conversation going or talk about new and different things, you can follow me at Garret Wato. That is at GarretWato. And follow at the Batman on Film, all one word, the Batman on Film on Twitter. That's where you can get the news updates, links to new stories on the website, anything that's going to let you know about what's moving and shaking over at BOF. And if you have any topics you'd like to hear about, I told you resolution is to put out more shows this year. If there's some topics you'd like to hear us discuss, go ahead and shoot me an email. You can find me Garret.Grev at batmanonfilm.com. That is GARRET.GREV at batman-on-film.com. And remember, dear listeners, it's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you. Thank you for listening. And let's welcome back Justin one more time. Thanks, Justin. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
You have been listening to the official podcast of the one and only Batman on Film website. On Twitter, follow BOF at Batman on Film and the Batman Podcast Network at BatPod Network. For Jet and everyone at Batman on Film, I'm announcer Rachel. Thanks for listening to the authoritative, definitive, the original Batman on Film.